Okay, moving on now to the assembly of the elevator here. And so I've taken the packets out of my accessories here, and I've put them in little bags and make sure I checked them all, make sure everything was there. So this here is our elevator assembly. So I'm going to take my accessories, put them on down here, and then take this and open up this little packet and pull out all of the stuff that we're going to need to put things together. And one of the things that we need to make sure that we have each one of these service horns here. The thing that's not given here is that the drill hole here, the size here, according to our instruction manual, I think it was 2 millimeters, so I have to check that before we go any further. Make sure that I drill these out, because these Allen wrench little bolts will go in here, and they're on the elevator, I mean on the ailerons, they're already drilled out and they're perfect. I already got them all set up. And I'll show you here. I've already put those all together, and ended up being that these will look the same once we get, but we can't do that until we get our drill bits and stuff. So they'll end up looking like this once you get done. Then you sand this part right here on there and make sure it's all nice and rough and scored. And then what we'll do is we'll open up our packet here. We'll put them in the slots that are right up here. Let's see, we've got to find them right here. You can feel them. They're little indentations. They'll sit just basically like that. And once we get there, we'll put them all together, and then we'll get back to you. All right, thanks. Okay, for the elevator linkage here and the service horns, what I've done is I've taken and I've drilled out the hole. It's 2.5 millimeters for the drill bit, and I put my lock nut on here with the Allen screw, and the wrench for the lock nut is a 5.5 millimeter. And anyway, I've sanded the ends here so it's ready to be able to be put on the elevator. So I will be working on that next, on the next issue here. Okay? All right, thanks. Okay, in this episode, what we're going to do is we're getting all of our equipment together, all the stuff that's going to be needed to set up the service horns on the elevator. And as you can see, I've got my glue, we've got the elevator and the stab there, and little plates, little organized. One of the things that I just wanted to show you is that in the ball link on here, when you go and try to push the push rod in here, what happens is that it doesn't go in. I mean, it's a job to get it to go in. And so what I did is I went into my tap and die set and took a 3 millimeter tap and just went in there and tapped to get a thread started. And then as I did that, after I did that, I came back and the rod just goes in a lot easier. So these here, they're not pre-threaded. What I did is I pre-thread it, pre-tapped it, and it goes in a lot easier. So that's just something to, do if you want, do if you don't. I did it for me, and it just made it a lot easier. Okay, so here we are. Basically we have everything all set up for our putting on our service horn. So here we go. And what I did not lock the lock nut on. I didn't put any Loctite on it yet. What I want to do is I want to first of all, I want to measure. I want to make sure that the service horns are up far enough off of the elevators there to be able to be pulled in and out easily. The hinge pins are not glued in yet, so everything is still in the bag. So I'm going to pull everything out right now and we'll get started. Okay, so here we are. We got the elevator and the stab here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of its package and put the package aside to just protect everything later on. I'm going to separate the stab from the pins, keeping the pins in where they are. Pull out, and some go with the stab, some go with the elevator. I'm just going to pull them all out and take them away from the elevator themselves and stick them in here to the stab so that we don't lose them. I like to keep things in a place where that's where they were, that's where they'll stay, and that's where they'll be for later on. So anyway, some of them are a little tight, but that's okay. You can just give them a gentle little nudge and a pull, and they'll come on out. Same with each one of them. This one's a little tight. Pull it on out. They'll suggest later on to take each one of these hinge, whatever you call it, shaft, and sand them a little bit so before you glue them in, and then also make sure that you, on here on the hinge part itself, put a little Vaseline, just wrap it around it like that, and then that way it'll keep it from getting glued together. And then what I've done is that even though I've done that before, I put it in the Vaseline on it, I found that even then it'll start to stick. So just even after you've glued them and you've got the Vaseline on, just come back and just give your elevator a working as it's hooked in here and it's moving up and down. Just take it and just move it up and down. And you'll hear it crack. That's okay, because that's just the glue giving way. So anyway, I'm taking all of the pin hinges and I'm putting them aside, and I'm going to put them over here in the back for right now. So everything's all set, everything here. Okay, here we are. We have our two elevators here. On one elevator, what I've done is I've basically left both of the service horns, out of assembly. Here's the rod for it here, and I'm going to set those just off to the side. This one here is already set. I've got it all sanded. Now in these here, if you look, I'll stick it out here. You can see these look like little washers, little white washers that come in. They don't tell you how to where to go and how to put them on. Where they should go in the assembly when you're putting on your service horns. So I started out and I put them on the inside next to the ball link, and it spread out the service horns real wide, out like that, and made them wide. So I changed them just now, and I put them to the outside next to the Allen bolt, and made them just basically a washer to the outside. And then when I came back and put them in, they match up perfectly to the slots that are going in. Now, for these, you can push them all the way down in, and they kind of sit a little bit on the low side. You could do that, or you can take them just where the curve begins. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that. I'm going to take it just to where the curve begins. I'm going to draw a line there, and as I draw the line there, I'm going to measure it, and then when I measure it, I'm going to make sure that both of them are exactly the same on both sides, and then I'm going to glue them in. So for right now, I'm going to pull away and stop, and we'll come to the next session. Okay, in this session, I'm going to just make a little line. Like I said, I'm going to make a little line basically right here and draw it in there. I'm going to pull them back up out of there. I can see, you can't really see it there on the camera, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little line right here, and then when I'm going to measure it and see how many millimeters I need to go up. Well, it's 1 centimeter plus 1, 2, 3, 4 millimeters, so 1.4. So I'm going to come over to this side here and make sure, but you can see actually that they're not the same. They're not, one's longer on the end than on the other. So You have to choose outside or inside which one you're going to measure to, and I'm going to look and see if there's any difference in between these two here. And basically they're the same. This one here has got one that's longer than the other one, so I'm going to use the inside or the outside for my measurement, and then I'm going to measure the same for on these two here for the other side. So you know, it's like anything, you know, whenever you're sawing, you measure twice, cut once. Well, I'm going to measure twice, and that's, let's see if I got this straight here. I'm going to come to the back edge. It's 1.4.